Here is the pitch Dubai has been running on the world's wealthiest people for the past decade. Zero income tax, zero capital gains tax, a golden visa that lets you stay for 10 years, world-class infrastructure, sun 300 days a year, and an address that tells everyone in the room exactly who you are. It sounds airtight, and on the surface, the numbers seem to back it up. Nearly 10,000 millionaires relocated to the UAE in 2025 alone, the highest inflow of any country on earth. Dubai now has over 80,000 millionaires within its borders. The luxury real estate market has been on a tear for 3 straight years. The PR machine is working perfectly. But here is what the PR machine is not telling you. And this is the part that the people writing the checks are starting to figure out. Quietly, without press releases, without announcements, just a slow, careful reallocation of the things that actually matter to them. The money is arriving, but the roots are not going down, and there is a reason for that. Let's start with the thing nobody in the wealth management world wants to say too loudly because it implicates some very large client portfolios. Dubai does not actually want you to own anything, not really. Not in the way that the word own means in a country with rule of law, an independent judiciary, and property rights that existed before your visa did. Here is what a golden visa actually gives you. A renewable residency permit. The right to live in the UAE for 10 years at a time, provided you continue to meet the conditions, provided the government doesn't change those conditions, and provided the political environment doesn't shift in a direction that makes your nationality inconvenient. That last part is not theoretical. In March 2025, the UAE's federal golden visa system quietly stopped approving new applications. No announcement, no explanation, just a portal that accepted uploads and returned processing indefinitely. For months, companies with employees stuck waiting on visas started paying hardship premiums just to keep people in the country. Salary thresholds for eligibility were rumored to be quietly rising. And then just this year, reports emerged of a more alarming scenario. Iranian nationals holding golden visas, people who had invested real money, bought real property, built real lives in Dubai, waking up to find their residency status under review. No official statement, no due process. Just administrative infrastructure moving in the dark. This has happened before. In 2017, when the UAE severed diplomatic ties with Qatar, Qatari residents found their visas restricted overnight. No court, no appeal, no warning, just a decision made at the top, implemented immediately, with no obligation to explain anything to anyone. That is the fine print on every golden visa that the brochure does not include. Your 10 years of residency are real, right up until they're not. And there is no mechanism to challenge that because in the UAE, there is no independent judiciary to challenge it to. Now let's talk about the real estate market because this is where the gap between the narrative and the data is getting genuinely uncomfortable. Dubai's luxury sector is still breaking records. Homes above $10 million are selling faster than they're being built. Palm Jumeirah and Emirates Hills remain as desirable as ever. That part is real. But pull back from the headline numbers and a different picture starts to emerge. In 2024, developers in Dubai launched over 154,000 new units. They completed 34,000. That is a 22% delivery rate, meaning for every 5 properties announced with fanfare and glossy renders, 4 are still under construction, or in some cases exist primarily as a line in a developer's sales pipeline. Moody's and Fitch, 2 of the most conservative names in global finance, both issued warnings in 2025 about what's coming. Fitch projected nearly 250,000 new units hitting the market between 2025 and 2027. That is a 16% increase in supply against expected population growth of just 5%. When supply grows at 3 times the rate of actual demand, there is a word for what happens next. And that word rhymes with correction. UBS, in their annual real estate bubble risk report for 2024, gave Dubai the highest increase in risk score of any of the 25 cities they track globally. Not the highest absolute score, but the fastest moving in the wrong direction. In plain English, the people whose job it is to protect old money are quietly, professionally worried. And here is the detail that exposes the deeper problem. Of all the properties currently under construction in Dubai, nearly 90% are apartments, studios, and one-bedroom units built for investors who plan to flip them, not families who plan to build a life there. When 3/4 of your real estate transactions are off-plan, bought by people who have never visited the unit and never intend to live in it, you don't have a housing market. You have a speculation market dressed in granite countertops and a marina view. That is exactly the structure that Dubai had in 2007, right before the most spectacular property crash the Gulf has ever seen. A crash so severe that entire artificial islands were abandoned mid-construction, investors fled the country overnight, and the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in human history, had to be renamed after a last-minute bailout from Abu Dhabi because Dubai literally ran out of money to finish it. History doesn't always repeat, but sometimes it rhymes so loudly you can't pretend you don't hear it. Here is the pattern that the smartest money has identified. And this is the detail that never makes it into the Dubai Tourism Board's presentations. The wealthy people moving to Dubai are not, by and large, moving their wealth to Dubai. They are moving their bodies to Dubai for the tax advantages, the lifestyle, the address, while keeping their actual assets, their family offices, their serious capital in places with something Dubai cannot offer: legal certainty. Singapore, Geneva, London, even with its tax changes, places where an independent court system has existed for longer than living memory, places where the rule of law is not a government PR initiative, but a structural feature of the society that predates any current administration. Family offices, the private wealth management structures that the ultra-rich use to manage and protect generational assets, have been quietly and consistently choosing Singapore as their operational base. Singapore's setup takes longer, costs more, requires more compliance, and the wealthy choose it anyway. Because when you are talking about preserving the kind of wealth that takes generations to build, the question is not where you can avoid taxes most efficiently today. The question is where your money is safe if something goes wrong tomorrow. Dubai cannot answer that question, not honestly. Not with a legal system that does not have judicial independence. Not in a country where a social media post can result in years in prison, where a business dispute with the wrong connected local can end your ability to operate in the country. Where the law changes by royal decree and there is no mechanism to challenge that decree in any court that would hear you fairly. The golden visa attracts, the legal reality retains or fails to. And this brings us to the thing that sits at the heart of everything, the thing that every wealth manager in Dubai knows, and almost none of them will say publicly because their business model depends on not saying it. Dubai is not a place, it is a product. It is a product that was designed, engineered, and marketed with extraordinary skill to attract the world's money. And like any product, its value depends entirely on the confidence of the buyer. The moment enough buyers start asking the questions that the brochure doesn't answer. What happens to my property if geopolitics shifts? What happens to my visa if my nationality becomes inconvenient? What happens to my business if I end up on the wrong side of a dispute? The product loses its price premium. And those questions are being asked, not loudly, not publicly, but in the offices of wealth managers in Geneva and Singapore and London, in the conversations that happen after the Dubai real estate presentations end, and the clients start talking among themselves. The narrative is still winning, but the narrative and the numbers are starting to diverge. Moody's is watching, Fitch is watching, UBS is watching, and the sophisticated money, the kind that didn't get sophisticated by believing everything it was told, is watching too. Dubai will not collapse tomorrow. That is not the argument. The infrastructure is real. The population is growing. The luxury segment has genuine demand from genuine buyers, but there is a difference between a city that is a place and a city that is a pitch. A place has roots, culture, history, legal infrastructure, civic identity. A pitch has returns, attractive until the risk-adjusted math stops working, at which point the capital that arrived quickly leaves quickly. Every single millionaire who arrived in Dubai arrived because the math worked for them. The moment the math stops working, through oversupply, through political instability, through a legal system that delivers an outcome they didn't expect, through a golden visa freeze that leaves their employees stranded, those same millionaires will leave with the same efficiency they arrived with. That is not a prediction. That is just how mobile capital works. And Dubai, more than perhaps any city in human history, was built entirely on mobile capital. The city that was created by money flowing in is uniquely, structurally vulnerable to money flowing out. And the people who understand that best, the ones who manage the largest fortunes, who have seen boom and bust cycles across multiple continents and multiple generations, are the ones quietly making sure their most important assets are somewhere else. Not because Dubai is finished, but because they've been around long enough to know that when something looks too good to be true, the fine print is always worth reading. And the fine print on Dubai says we can take it all back at any time, for any reason, and there's nothing you can do about it. Leave that in the comments, because I want to know if you think this is just smart diversification or the beginning of something bigger. And if you want to keep following the money to places it doesn't want to be followed, subscribe and hit the bell. See you in the next one.